give them access to their section only?
Yes.
You may not know the answer to this, but it might be worth looking into, or maybe there's another alternative. But
Talking to Mike.
might it be possible to cut entrance doors into existing garage door? Like barn doors, frequent, the big barn doors usually have an open walk-through door.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's possible, I don't know the structure of the door.
I think those are 20-foot doors. I don't think you could.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of ways that we can give people access without having to blow up the whole building.
Yeah, I think the other thing I've been looking at is I'm going to actually I'm going to put a call into the overhead door to see if we can get the remotes. Now, if we had, I'm sure you would get, because there's 8 different overhead electric units. I'm sure you would get a remote and have a program different. So if somebody wanted to come into one of the areas that doesn't have an outside door, you just use the remote, they'd be able to open up their side and go in, have it up. The only thing would be
And or you put the keypad.
or you can put a keypad on the outside where they can come in. I mean, I'm sure, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. But that's on the radar.
Yeah. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm out of place here or whatever, but there's one thing that was,
I'll open it to the whole floor since there's so many of you. You can all chime in. Anybody who chimes in though, if we need help power washing, you're our volunteer.
We have to bring our own.
I volunteer for the first 90-degree day.
I guess I should go from your county.
Just a mic.
Hi, my name is Walter Crease, and we live at 367 East Bighorn Drive. One thing I was thinking about when you guys were talking about the remotes and the overhead doors and everything else, what if lost of power? How is that person going to get into this place that you might need to get into at that time? If you lose power, you lose your garage door, there's everything else.
Can we borrow your generator?
We use it that type of thing. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. What, like you were saying, doors, probably, if you get an access door put into, the overhead doors, it's possible.
That would be the definite way to go, if it can be done. I mean, I don't know how much it would cost.
That's just one thing to keep in mind.
Well, we need to get generators on our buildings.
Could we also, I know there are like garage door openers for your home that have battery backup attached to them?
Mm-hmm. That could be an option too. I mean, that's something that, when I talk to the overhead door company, we have them lay out what different kind of options.
Sure, for commercial doors, you almost have to have a backup system of some kind.
Anything money can buy.
All right, so Jeff, you're going to research that. All our options with the doors is what you're saying. You're researching it.
Yes.
Is there, let's get everything out on the table. Anything else you think we should research or be looking at?
Because now's the time.
Now's the time.
For now, I know somebody will be coming in next week to check the heating units and air conditioning and all that. There's 5 different thermostats in the warehouse area. Each unit's hooked up to its own thermostat, but we're going to change that. We can do a series of relays and so forth. So ultimately, the village will have control of what the temperature will be. We don't want anything. Each bay has its own little slider, so it's not like we're going to have a tenant come in here and boost it up to 80. Even though it's technically free, we want to have a handle on when, your typical landlord that you want to.
Well, the utility companies will monitor it. If they see anything
If there's some
exceptional, they're going to come back to you. So you don't want to abuse it.
Is the door that goes from shop side to office side solid core?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a fire door.
That bolts on it?
I don't think it has a deadbolt. It does lock.
I'm just wondering if that's something we're going to look at. If that's going to be alarmed, just
Just a thought. Well, that's a good thought. Also, just going back to the records room, Kathy, our village clerk, made contact to have, in fact, Kathy, I'll let you explain who you contact about in regards to records that we have that can be destroyed. Before we go moving our records over there, we want to destroy any first that we don't have to keep any longer, rather than moving them and then just end up destroying them in a month or two.
So I contacted Steve Koziel he's a field rep with our local records unit, and he works with the Illinois State Archives. And he's coming out on February 16th and going to meet with Kelly, Roseanne, Linda, Jeff, and myself regarding our records. And one thing that when Roseanne started, I had her do a listing of all records in the village, which we never had. So we have that, so now we can dispose of records that we don't need. And Steve will sit down and go over a permit application with us. We'll go through what we have, what we can dispose of, then we'll get probably a shredding company to come out and dispose of them, and go from there.
And then once we move the records that we must retain over into the records room, that will be limited access. So if somebody needs to be pulling a record, they put in a request, there should really only be 2 people that have access to that room. They pull the record and deliver it. We are not going to have people going in and out and going through the records. That's how things disappear and you don't find them in the future. So that will be a locked and secure place. I was going to say, a lot of our records, again, are out in the garage, and it's not the ideal temperature control situation for them. And it'll be interesting to see if everything's there that is there. I think there's a question whether there's a mixing box or not.
I spoke to Jeff and Gary just before the meeting tonight about the 2 outside fuel tanks on the new property. And the tanks are owned by Conserve FS. And
Prior to what we thought that they owned them, then we thought George Gaffney owned them, and now we know that Conserve owns them. It's gone back and forth.
okay. And asked Jeff to pursue, he had mentioned that he'd like to get smaller tanks out there so we could buy it. Well, I asked him to pursue at least a couple other places so we can see if we can get the same sort of deal. The free tanks, and if we have a cheaper rate for fuel purchase, just so we can do our due diligence.
Yeah, it should be easy enough to do, we'll just call in for a couple of 500 gallon and whatever. I guess it would be more than tank, yeah, if you buy, a fuel, that's another one that up and down all the time, so I don't know.
A distributor is no different than the gas station. The gas station goes up 2 or 3 cents a day or up a quarter, or whatever the hell they feel like doing. It's the same way, when they buy it. Of course, the one good thing about buying it from a dealer is usually you're getting the price that it was that day, because they don't buy theirs in bulk either.